Now, let's get into this. What I'm going to do now is show you how the courts work. It's all ecclesiastical. Okay, and this is very sad, but we need to know this. It's cruel. It's absolutely cruel, the poor young boys that go in to court with a lawyer. The lawyer's working for the Cestui KV accounts. The prosecution is, the clerk is, and the judge is. And you bring a lawyer with you to prove that you're a ward of the state, that you're lost at sea. So you need a Cestui KV account, someone to manage all your wealth. They've stolen it. A court room. So let's make a little courtroom here. We've got the judge here, we've got the clerk over here, and you and the prosecution, okay? Every trust has a trustee, a executor, and a beneficiary. Okay, that's the owner. This guy executes, sign, and this guy's the beneficiary. That's you. You're the beneficiary of the Cestui KV trust, right? Now, why they bring you into court is because they want to create a constructive trust with the presumption, with the knowing that you're already a slave of the system by virtue of your name. That's why the judge, the first thing he says is, what is your name? For the record, can we have your name? He wants that name. The moment you give him that name and agree to be that name, you bring life to the Cestui KV trust, and he's got you, because he wants to change roles with you. The clerk here is the trustee, not the judge. This guy's the administrator of the trust. He's just the administrator, the judge. You are the beneficiary. This guy, the prosecution, I should have put the prosecution inside the circle, is executor. I think I've confused that, but it doesn't matter. He's the executor. He's got all the liability. He's the one that got the writ created to get you into court, the summons. Because what they want you to do is appear in court, accept that you are the name. Oh, we've found the beneficiary, right? And then he's going to swap roles with you and be the beneficiary and get you to execute your own sentence. Now, if you think I'm stretching that a little bit, basically everything that goes on in court is the sacrament of penance. What's the sacrament of penance? We've forgotten. But these guys, these guys here well knew what the sacrament of penance was, because that's what brought them in there. The sacrament of penance is, you're a dirty, rotten sinner. We're all sinners. Sin, 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 sin. But God's merciful. Oh, he's lovely. He forgives. So you've got this treasury of credits up there in heaven. What we're going to do is we're going to administer those credits. We're going to administer them, and it's penance. And you pay. And the system works on the confession. It's all the confession. You go to court to confess your sins and pay for them. That's penance. Every single thing in court runs as a church does, and confession, and you go in there to confess and accuse yourself. Penance is a sacrament in the new law instituted by Christ, in which forgiveness, this comes from the Catholic Church. Have a listen to this. This is from I've just ripped this off the Catholic Wiki Encyclopedia on the net last night. Of the new law instituted, penance is a sacrament of the new law instituted by Christ, in which forgiveness of sins committed after baptism is granted through the priest's absolution to those who with true sorrow confess their sins and promise to satisfy for the same. It is called a sacrament, not simply a function of ceremony, because it is an outward sign instituted by Christ to impart grace to the soul. As an outward sign, it comprises the actions of the penitent in presenting himself to the priest and accusing himself of his sins, and the actions of the priest in pronouncing absolution and imposing satisfaction. The whole procedure is usually called, from one of its parts, confession. That's what you're doing when you go to court. I'll show you this. Yeah, it's all in the wording. It's still there. It's in the wording. Look at the words and there it is. You watch. Because it is a judicial process in which the penitent is at once the accuser, the person accused, and the witness. Remember this, because that's how the Inquisition ran, and that's how courts work. It's exactly the same thing. It's morphed, but it hasn't changed in its nature. So you become the person accused, the accuser, and the witness. They're saying it. While the priest pronounces judgment and sentence. The judge. The grace conferred is deliverance from guilt and sin, and in the case of mortal sin, from its eternal punishment, hence also reconciliation with God, justification. That's the sentence. Finally, the confession is made not in the secrecy of the penitent's heart, nor to the layman as friend and advocate, nor to the representative of human authority, but to a duly ordained priest with requisite jurisdiction and with the power of the keys, the power to forgive sins which Christ granted to his church. Now I'm going to talk about another thing here, indulgences. Remember I mentioned those from the same encyclopedia. In Catholic theology, an indulgence is the full or partial remission of temporal punishment due for sins which have already been forgiven. Of course, God forgives, but you're a sinner, and we'll manage that for you. That's all it is. That's all it is, guys, and they are the priests of Baal. The temple Ba is Baal. Baal is Saturn. It's the church of Satan. They're the Grim Reapers in black. Excuse me for that. In Catholic theology, an indulgence is the full or partial remission of temporal punishment due for sins which have already been forgiven. The indulgence is granted by the Catholic Church after the sinner has confessed and received absolution. The belief is that indulgences draw on the treasury of merit accumulated by Christ's abundantly meritorious sacrifice on the cross and the virtues and penances of the saints. They are granted for specific good works and prayers. They've monetized sin. And this was developed by the Jesuits in the 1500s with the backing of the Venetians who created the Jesuits. The Jesuits rule the world. They do. A court is an oratory. That's where you confess. Just look at these words. Have a look at these words. A clerk. What's a clerk? What does it sound like? A cleric. The judge is an ordinary. What's an ordinary? An officer of the church who by reason of office has ordinary power to execute the church's laws. That's what the judge is, an ordinary. A case. What's the case? We're going to hear a case today. Hear a case? Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. Yes, tell me what you've done. That's what it is. That's why you will never bring to life that name when you go to church, when you go to Baal's church, when you go to court. Cortio, which means, oh God, I forgot the name. Cortio. Well, it's an oratory. Writ. Is it two T's? No. Got it wrong here. Comes from, well, there's no W in Latin. It doesn't exist. Well, it used to. It's a rite. It's a religious rite. Comes from, well, there's no W in Latin. It doesn't exist. Well, it used to. It's a rite. It's a religious rite. Because the, let me say this correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. The scribe and a notary. What's a scribe and a notary? He makes the writs. He puts the curse on you. The summons, whatever it is. A bill, Telstra. It comes from a writ, right? And the scrivener, scribe, vene, from Verne Latin is, guess what? Our little friend, the indulgence. That's an indulgence. The writer of indulgences. They're telling you in your face, and we don't see it. A warrant. What's a warrant? Well, it seals the writ. It seals the writ. So it indemnifies the king and the queen from being sued if they lose. That's what a warrant is. Warrant comes from seal of the writ and is a form of indulgence. Hearing. Well, I've already gone through that. It's a confession. That's what a hearing is. Isn't this sick? Don't you think? It makes you sick. It makes you sick. And that's what's going on. And it's run by insane people. Oh, what's sentence? It's penitence. Penance. Absolution. Prison or a fine. Prosecutor. Prosecutus. 3 words. Prosecutus. The skin. Self. Present. It's representing one's own flesh, or a person who is claiming to be you, making a self-accusation. So those warrants that come to your house or whatever, they are prosecuting you, right? So they're claiming to be you. They're just using that name on the trust. Attorney, turnover. Attorney tells you, I turn you over. That's what it means. You bring an attorney with you. Thanks, mate. Yeah, you help me. Come on, man. Let's go and see the judge. And tell him what to say. You tell him, and guess what? You find yourself in prison and you look at your attorney and he goes, well, I tried, you know. I said, they work for the same guy. They're all getting commissions. That's why the prosecution is always required to bring their checkbook to court. Because if they can't get you to swap roles with him, you become the trustee, he becomes the beneficiary, and get you to prosecute your own sentence. If they can't do that, they bear the liability. They're going surety for it. They're prosecuting. So they're bringing the liability. They're charging your trust account. So in a beautiful, on the websites that I showed you, on this one here, Spiritual Economics Now, you can go there to a page. It's beautiful. Please read this. This is the best 5 pages I think you'll ever read by Franco Collins. Right? All those websites are linked to my website, the top one, Universal Truth School, or you can go straight to them. But if you go here, you'll find the links. You can get to all of those. And in here is the information that Serena's going to share with you next about how to collapse these trusts and how to create ecclesiastical deed polls and to create a new birth certificate. That's called a live born record. Right? And I have a new trust number, and I have a universal, not a Roman date for my birthday. Anyway, Serena will be making that a little bit clearer. What do you say in court? Court. Who's who and what to say. This is what Franco Collins suggests, and I'm going to finish up with that and tidy up. Serena will do her bit after we have a break, and then we can do some question and answers after that. All right? And believe me, Serena's got some beautiful things to share with you because she is really, really leading in Victoria and spearheading this technology. So. But the most important thing, guys, is to get on here. There are audio files. You can listen to, there's about 16 audio files on talkshoe.com, is it? Or .org? It's .com. You'll find it, there's a link to it here in these. There are links to it. But you can download Franco Collins' audio files and learn all this. I've just been learning this in the last 3 months. This is what to say. We all know from our indoctrination, programming and schooling that judges are impartial and have sworn an oath to this effect. This means he must not favour either plaintiff or defendant, but our experience reveals that he does indeed favour the plaintiff, indicating a glaring conflict of interest. That the prosecutor, judge and clerk all work for the state the owner of the Sestwi KV Trust. So, as the case is not about justice, it is about administration of a trust. They all represent the trust owned by the state, and if we are beneficiary, the only two positions left are trustee and executor. There's only three positions connected to these trusts. And the state, the Vatican, owns them. So if you detect the judge's impartiality, although I doubt the case will get this far, you might want to let him know that you know this. If you consider court as entertainment, and if you can stand the evil emanating from its offices, the fear, the angst oozing from the walls, and the treacherous atmosphere, then go. Knowing that under trust law, we cannot be trustee or executor of a trust, while being beneficiary, as that would be a conflict. The position of beneficiary may lack clout, but the other positions hold liability. Remember? He brings the writ, he brings the case to court, the hearing, come and confess, you've been accused, talk to the judge, tell him what you talk to the priest of bail, he's dressed in black there all for you, monetising sin, pay, because what they do is they dip in to our Sestwi KV accounts because they've got our numbers. There's three numbers: birth certificate number, tax file number, and social security number. They are the three major numbers. There are other numbers. They're the numbers that follow you around all your life for 75 years. That's why they demand that you retire before 75, because these birth certificates, they only run 75 years. Because it's all about banking. This is also about banking, guys.
Libya is one of only 4 or 5 nations on earth that still own their dollar.
Thank you very much. Say no more. The Rothschilds, they want their banks, they want these Sestwi KVs going, 666, the mark of the beast. They want it all around the world, and they think they're going to bring in a new world order. This is the new world order, because as it morphs, remember Constantine and the Julian evil? How did Julius Caesar get to power? He ran fire departments in Rome, and if you didn't pay, you found that your neighbourhood would get burnt to the ground. That's how he got into power. It's mafia. It's all mafia. It's all, look, there you go. Beautiful couple, aren't they? That is the king of pedophiles. That is the queen of pirates. They've been running the Hudson Bay Company and the East India Company, selling drugs to the Chinese. They're pirates. They ran the pirates. She's the queen of pirates. They hire mercenaries. They hire inquisitional soldiers. These guys are dupes. These guys think they're doing their job and they're doing something good. They've got the afterlife to deal with after they've been persecuting people. That's the private guilds that run this from the Temple Bar. They are above the Vatican. Only these people, because that land was granted to them in absolute. They are the only ones in history who have that land. Therefore, they can do this. And since 1815, since the Rothschilds bankrupted the Bank of England and took over those private guilds, we've been under that family, Khazarian family. That's what they are. I'd just like to ask a question. I wonder if they've been introduced to these people yet. I wonder if they know that they live on the same planet. And the guy who shot this film, by the way, he went home, he was from New York. He shot this and committed suicide. That's the story about, that's a famous picture. Because he went there and he saw that and he saw this bird is going to eat that little kid. Now why are these people suffering and starving? Because this system has stolen the wealth of the whole world. And we have to wake up. A few more things about what to say in court. This will be a surprise if you have to go to court. When the name of the trust, example John Doe, is called by the judge aka administrator, aka trustee, you can stand and ask, are you saying that the trust which we are now administering is the John Doe Trust, Your Honour? And you watch him turn white. The moment you, what's the word? In the moment you just show an inkling of that knowledge because they are hiding this fact. They are denying that they're operating trust law. We can stand up. Okay, this establishes that we know that the name is a trust, not a live man. What's the judge's first question? What is your name? State your name for the record. We must be very careful not to identify with the name of the trust, because doing so makes us the trustee. What does this tell you about the judge? If we know that the judge is the trustee, then we know that the judge is the name, but only for this particular constructive trust, which is the case. Prosecution, it's a hearing, it's in the Inquisition. Now, think about all the times that the judge have become so frustrated by our refusal to admit to being the name that they issue a warrant, and then as soon as the man leaves, he is arrested. How idiotic is that? They must feel foolish for saying John Doe is not in the court, so I'm issuing a warrant for his arrest, and then the man whom they just admitted is not there is arrested because he is there. That's how it works, this personal fiction. It's disgusting. Their desperation makes them insane. They must get us to admit to being the name or they pay. Remember, he's got to bring his checkbook along, man, because he has to pay if he fails to shift the liability over to us, and we prosecute and we sign. We execute our own sentence. This is beautiful, what you're going to learn here. This is really, really beautiful. They're desperate. They must get us to admit to being the name or they pay, and we must not accept their coercion or we pay. Because the judge is the trustee, a precarious position, the best thing to say in that case is John Doe is indeed in the court, Your Honour. Point to the judge, it is you as trustee. You are John Doe today, aren't you? Why not? Why not? We have dominion. We are men and women. We're not persons. We're not. We can't keep going with the fiction. Why? Why would you? It's insane. During their frustration over not admitting to being a trust name, the trustee and or executor of the trust, we ought to ask who they are. Before we go any further, I need to know who you are. Address the clerk of the court. The trustee for the Sestui KV Trust owned by the state province. Are you the Sestui KV trustee who has appointed this judge as a trustee for the Sestui KV Trust owned by the state province? Are you the Sestui KV trustee who has appointed this judge as administrator and trustee of the constructive trust case? Number. Did you also appoint the prosecutor as executor? Did you also appoint the prosecutor as executor of this constructive trust? Then point to the judge. So you are the trustee, then point to the prosecutor. You are the executor, are you not? And I'm the beneficiary. So now we know who's who, and as beneficiary, I authorise you to handle the accounting and dissolve this constructive trust. We have the power to do that. Dissolve this hearing. I don't want to accuse. I'm not into sin. I'm divine. I'm from heaven. One heaven. I'm a spirit. I'm not the dead. This is what they consider us. This is how they do it. Lost at sea, abandoned, filial, minor or incompetent, ward of the state, etc. Because that's why they made the trusts. They made them for a ward of the state. There's someone who's incompetent, you know, like if someone's, say like a very severely mentally handicapped person and his parents die and his uncle steps in and says, "Oi, I'll look after him, I'll look after him, everything's in trust," and because he loves him and he takes care of him.
The word deed comes from the word deed.
Yes. Yeah, I went through some words, didn't I? That was just a bunch of words, guys. It's all there. Look, you'll see it. It's the Inquisition. I'll just finish up this. I now claim my body, so I am collapsing the Cestui KV trust which you have charged, as there is no value in it. You have committed fraud against all laws. Likely we will not get to hear that before the judge will order case dismissed. Or even more likely, the PE, as he clings tightly to his checkbook, will call, "We withdraw the charges." You watch it and see it happen, guys.
Does it really work? You know,
Yes. Oh, yes. There's hundreds and thousands of people doing this and doing it. There's a video clip on remember this, loveforlife.com. Do you know that one? Go to it. Have a look at this guy, and in 5 minutes, the judge has walked out the door. Why does the judge walk out and have a recess? Do you know why? I'll just finish off with this really quickly. 3 forms of law in the court. When you go to court and the magistrates, you get UCC. First up, commercial law. They can only fine you here. You can only get a fine. When the judge has a recess, he's not telling you what he's doing. He's changing the form of law. And you can go to prison in canon law. That's the Vatican. That's canon law. It's not common law. It's admiralty law. Admiralty law. This is the second form of law. This is the first one. The third is Talmudic. From the Bible. This gives them the priest to send, this gives them the authority as the priests of Baal to send you to your sentence of death. Here they can send you to jail. That's why he runs out of court. You'll see the judge in that video clip on the website, loveforlife.com or .org, whatever, you'll find it. And go down and have a look at the guy, and you'll see how the judge goes, because he got frustrated with this guy. The guy just refused to give him his name. He said, "Are you John Doe?" And he goes, "I'm John." I'll repeat, "Are you John Doe?" He says, "I'm John." "Do you have a family name?" He says, "Oh, I have a family name, but that's not important for today. John will do. I'm here to offer remedy." And the judge got so angry. He said, "Sit down!" He's basically yelling. He's telling his dupes, his bailiffs and all these sheriffs and everything to get him and throw him out of the court. And he says, "Don't do that. You'll be dishonouring a court official," because he'd already given his documents to the bailiff. And once those documents are on that bench, that's it. They can dishonour that. And it's very, very dangerous. Anyway, the judge got frustrated and he goes, "We're going to have a recess." And the guy says, "How long? I haven't got all day. How long are you going to be?" And anyway, the judge opens the door and walks out. Just as he walked out, he realised, he says, "The judge has jumped ship," because that's what this is, a ship. Remember, it's admiralty. It's the law of the high seas. He's in his ship. He's in his boat. So he immediately announced, he said, "For the record, the judge has jumped ship. He's abandoned ship. I, as a sovereign in this court, take authority. Case closed with prejudice. Have a nice day." And just walked out. Okay? This is the power you've got. If they adjourn the case, that's fine. It stays in the same court. If the judge says we're going to have a recess, that's when you step in and you say, "Your Honour, I don't consent." Because it's an offer. They're administering the trust. You don't have to go to jail. You don't have to consent. The jail is just a warehouse where they put the goods, where they store the goods. That's all it is. You're just the goods, because you are their goods. So that's the power you have. You don't consent. And you can always relay to the judge that if you want to have an appeal, if you say to the judge, "I seek an appeal for I seek leave for an interlocutory appeal on a matter of law," remember that sentence, "I seek leave for an interlocutory appeal on a matter of law," if you say that, then the judge is going to be very, very reluctant to let you go to appeal, because then he misses out on his commission. It's all about commissions. They're getting paid and they're addicted to the payments that come from it. The thing is about honour. You can call the judge your honour. You know, because if you have more honour than the prosecution, who are liars, and if you go in there honourably in every way, treat the judge with respect, and you will win.